Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're here together in Sun and Moon Yoga Studios portal. So precious to have these connections, these electronic ones, in addition to to complement our being in person together. So my name's Alex. I think I might have said that already. So we're here with Sun and Moon Yoga Studio, and do let me know. Sounds like you can hear me. Thanks, Steve. Thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, for being part of the community. I've been drawing, as I do, on my teacher Russell Delman's writings and teachings, and what does he call it? Social. I think he's using this term called social immunity to, but immunity not just from things, but just to have a stronger sense of our health in all ways, and that we need to come together in groups that support for that support. So let me just give you a little heads up of where we're going. Have what you need around you to stay warm, to stay comfortable. I'll probably stay in a seated position today. Um, we're going to do a very gentle breathing practice to bring our attention to a mini movement and segue us into stillness. And the themes I'm thinking of are so many as usual. Um, is one like the idea of social immunity, the things we do to take care of ourselves, tending tending to what needs care, what needs attention. And sometimes that's not absolutely clear, but we want to look for what's most resonant, what's most lined up with our own path, how to do the tending, what way we tend to our own needs, to our family needs, friends needs, social needs. um, and the other is complementing it with trust. Big word, big umbrella, and I'll talk a little bit more about sharing a story I heard on that. So let's arriving, and I guess a couple of you are there. If you're there, it's real helpful for me to know that by a text like Steve put in, or a chat, a note in the chat. And some of you I know watch later. I think Nancy, I haven't seen your name in quite a while. I think you registered, and I'm so happy to hear from you in that way. Tanya, oh Tanya, my fellow Ukrainian. I am first generation Ukrainian, first generation American. My parents came from Ukraine. So a lot going on in that world, the time of this recording, and that relationship with that country. So others of you, Anne Catherine, Lisa Sajowski, Elizabeth Kaiser, Brooke Pinkerton, Lana, my longtime friend, sometimes tunes in. Lauren, Manda was here. Manda, who I met years ago at the yoga studio, my young friend. So happy for all of you who join in. Arriving. I feel the contrast. Perhaps like me, you've been, if you're on the East Coast time, you've been running around with several hours, the 4 hours I've been up, I've been doing, walking the dog, eating the zoo here, the small zoo, tidying up, preparing my space. And what a contrast. Notice how you feel the contrast in your body from whatever you were doing earlier, even if it was something quite restful. Now, this particular endeavor, this shared practice, has a certain flavor, certain flavors that we feel in our body and our energy. in our hands, feet, and seat. And perhaps noticing how your breath is feeling. And all of this in noticing, super, super helpful. This is part of how we can more richly tend to ourselves. Is notice that we give words to it. It's almost sure that we're labeling, we're giving words like we're um, a TV or commentator on a sport or something we're observing. We describe. This is part of our brain's function, and it's really quite useful. And there can be a time when we ask it to just rest, take a pause. But now I am asking you because part of the naming, and if you have the luxury of feeling like you can say it out loud, I'm here, my only audience is my cat and dog. I can say out loud, I feel what I feel, and getting the just the right word. So one of the words that comes to me is, for example, for an example may not be the same for you, is a peacefulness. But sometimes a word like that is too big an umbrella, too big an umbrella. And perhaps I need to, as my teacher Russell says, when we give a word that's too general, and it can be the right word, and you'll know it by the resonance that you feel in your body and your mind, in your spirit. But sometimes that only gets you like a piece of mail being delivered to the right zip code, but is not anywhere near the right neighborhood or street. So if I feel into, okay, is it truly peaceful? Sometimes maybe I just need to add a few words to round it out. There's a calm lightness, and there's something else here. So I'm modeling this just to have you come along for your in your wording, in your expression. And this usefulness is that the accuracy helps us then to know what would be the right action needed, if any. It helps us to match what is our next obvious step when we have a really accurate description. So calm lightness, light, calm lightness. It's a calm lightness paired with this energetic caring. It could maybe be refined more, but that feels pretty good. Calm lightness and an energetic caring. And in that, the little refinement, and I'll do this just to demonstrate again. In the energetic caring, there's a little tension, but it's sort of a good tension of, am I going to get this right? And I feel that a little in my belly. So this is a potent practice. The name I give to it is a fellow who codified this particular method. He called it focusing. And it's funny, as I learned it from Russell, also a teacher, uh, I feel like that word doesn't, it's more like a diffusing of focus to open, but then to pinpoint. So there, the focusing does pinpoint. And an important part of the focusing practice, and important for many of us, is Eugene Gendlin, who codified this. I think he worked in Chicago. he called it, I think, clearing the space, and what I would call the grounding and centering, presencing. which we did before that, that's an important step. And so much of the time, this 30 minutes we spend together, simply tuning in, checking in and feeling what's here and how am I now? Is every part of me? And I'll bring my more formal grounding parts in just to reinforce again this clearing the space or this arriving, sensing gravity. Goodness, and my young nephew, 9 years old, he was giving me something complimentary to this. I'm forgetting it. Add it in later. So gravity that lets us stay down and not be floating up in the air all the time. Some of us have more tendency to float in our creative wind spirit. Let's sense how gravity is holding us right here. How we sense that through the parts of us touching the ground, whether you're on a chair, on a bed, on the ground, like I am, with some cushions supporting me. And then the complementing equal and opposite force of levity when we really find that gravity, really start to let go. And it's not like you have to become a puddle on the ground. No disrespect to the puddle, but it's a different form than we are. But each part, as I've described, if you drop a line from up above, from the heavens above down through any point on your body, and from the head, the shoulder, the chest, back, hips, down to the center of the earth, those lines form this grid that for me has become so palpable, even though it's invisible. And it's becomes easy to be held, to be more effortlessly here physically as we surrender to that downward force and equally find that upward with my second of the three so ground, which is gravity, levity, breath, and the levity in this observation can feel where and how breathing is for you today. And wow, trusting into it's easy to trust for the most part until we have some challenge to our breath. It's so easy to trust, wow, it's here for us. I don't have to think about it most of the time. And then I can think about it and the power of that when we attend to the breath. Pardon my clearing my throat. When we attend to it, we can even amplify its gifts for us. That when we more allow the breath, the oxygenation, the nourishment that we avail ourselves of for our brain, for our muscles, for our digestive system. And you don't need to do anything in particular, but maybe as you're watching, feeling the breath, the second leg of my three-part stool, getting us into more and more easily to be aligned as our presence. I cut myself off in the middle of sentence. The breath, oh, you might engage in it. You might find yourself taking a deeper in breath. You might feel that, oh, I've been holding. They're not really allowing the breath to fill some of the upper spaces of the lungs, which come above the collarbones even. And not that you have to, you can let the breath be. It might be very shallow as we get still and quiet. The needs for oxygen go down. So these 3 points that I'm sharing, these are useful to come back to if you need or feel like you need a lifeline from in our stillness that's coming up. come to a lifeline back to presence, capital P. And then the third one is sound, sound and space around, sound and space around. And just without me even elaborating much on that, notice what you felt as your system, as your nervous system, as your faculties tuned into that instruction and where it took you. It sound when I do that, it takes you out and connects that outer, those sounds of my dog, of the bird outside the window, or birds to here, to in here, connecting those little bones in our ears that are part of why we are able to hear sound with the structures out there. And this third leg of the presence, gate into presence, is also not just about sound, but just opening ourselves to all the space around the light, the air, the structures, and that we are in relation with and to all of that. And so this practice is deeply immersing ourselves into tending to ourself right here, tending and to tending, taking that action of tending based on what the most accurate reading we can get on who we are right here in this moment, what we are. Now the trust, I want to share a story. What's the program called? Unsung Heroes, something like that, on plays on NPR. I think they air one weekly, a story, something like that. I'll maybe remember it. So this story is from a woman who wasn't so comfortable with flying, and after the towers in New York were attacked on 9/11, and year was that 2001. She got on the plane, and the fellow she was sitting next to was aware. He asked her. He said it was clear she was uncomfortable, and she described to him why she was uncomfortable. And what he said to her after a pause, he said, "You know, most people are good." It took me a while to get that because my brain was, as I've talked about, the tendency of our brain to go with um, something we already have a predisposition to be thinking, or a structure. I was thinking we was going to say something like, "It's so much safer to fly than drive a car." That paradigm, but I had kind of checked out. I wasn't truly hearing what her issue was, the aggression from others that can happen, and the attacks that can happen from others. And so when my brain, in the minute it took me to get that, I was touched. And I don't know, there's a part of my mind that goes, well, statistically, really, do we know that? There's this little analytical part, but there's the heart part of me that just knows that that is true. And it's a little hard, perhaps, when we feel that there are many conflicts going on that may affect us personally, may affect people we know personally, may affect people we care about, even if we don't know them, um, adversely. And so our hearts break open. And part of this process of working through these kinds of things are is to let ourselves be broken open. Let ourselves be broken open. And my suggestion, passing it along from the suggestion of many, many teachers before, is that we do that with support, with like the support we've come in here with, the grounding, the community, and sometimes we might need other support. Always seek that first. Seek your ground. I suppose the ground part of what I was saying earlier, to first find your support, find your clear space, find your presence. Sometimes that may take some extra for, what's the word, fortifying. And so, in part, in going inside and feeling the breath, feeling our body, feeling that these elements of light, of warmth, of clarity, and even just feeling this life force that is ever renewing without us having to do anything. To be more and more intimate with that is what gives us the support. So, tending to all this helps keep us strong and vibrant and lets us know what is the next step. So, let's come into our 7.5 minutes of stillness. I've been pretty still. If you need a movement, a stretch out before, oh, I didn't do our mini movement part. I'll do it as the beginning of the breathing because we're barely moving. We can do that. I just got talking so much. I know the bell doesn't work so great, but I'm going to start our meditation with a bell and a bow. So now committing to stillness, ground, sound, breath. Resting as presence. That's all we need to do here. Let the mind rest. It's patterns, the mind's patterns of wanting to fix, help, solve, analyze. They will pop up like popcorn, as another of my teachers like to share. Popcorn mind. Let it be if that happens, or come back to one of the tethers, bringing us right back to presence. You might soften a little in the belly, in the hands, mouth, and the eyes. And then before we let our mind completely rest again, just follow 3 full rounds of breathing. That was the practice I was going to have us do, the mini movement. And just consciously follow 3 breaths. And anytime you like during this practice, that's another mini practice within the practice you can do if you feel you're having trouble just resting as awareness. Sensing the very presence that you are, or any sensations, labels, memories. This is what's useful for us to get very familiar with. So when we can tap into that, I would say that might be the ultimate trust. If anything pops up that grabs your mind's attention, recognize that that's so natural and it's nada. No need to panic or judge or punish. Perhaps lightly label and let it go. Deeper investigation for another time. And then again, from this spaciousness, let's take 3 conscious breaths following with our attention while not losing a sense of our spaciousness. And we end our practice, our meditation practice again with a bell and a bow. And we can take this mini practice with us to pause through the day, maybe a few times. Just pause it. It doesn't have to be, you can be anywhere, anything. Just pause, be still, and follow 3 breaths, reconnecting with the essence of ourself and paying attention in that little interval, paying attention to really what's here. So we're set ourselves up for that clarity of being able to name, identify truly our own truth here now, our perception of ourself, our environment, perhaps it is. And then we can feel the resonance of that when it feels right, when it aligns to what is the next step. Perhaps there's nothing to do. Perhaps it's wait. A lot of wisdom in waiting sometimes, but it's hard when we want to be effective, be helpful. And we get to see all that. But sometimes it's clear. It's clear. Make dinner, do the laundry, make a birthday card to tend to someone, like is my thumbnail for this YouTube video. Card made for me long ago. Thank you so much for joining me again. For all of you who join later, all those of you who tuned in now, so precious and sustaining for me, nourishing for me to know you're here. Thank you so much. See you next time. And check out sunandmoonstudio.com. Oh, I will put a plug in. I've mentioned this a few times, but other meditation opportunities are um, Wednesday evenings with Christine Clardy. That is in person and I think on Zoom, but I don't think there's a recording. Um, Friday mornings, Eastern time with Jackie. So those are ones you need to sign up for. Friday is by donation. I think Wednesday might also be donation. So your choice to what to pay, if to pay. And I think there might be another one in our, yeah, there might be. Check our listing. Be well, take care, and trust.